Hello everyone. So, Pride Month has come to an end, but oh my gosh, what an amazing end. I had the privilege of marching in World Pride 2019 New York City, and wow, I cannot say enough about how amazing of an experience that was. It's pretty wild, like having millions of people cheer for you and your existence while walking down the street. It's amazing. I can't even communicate to you how incredible that feels to know that mostly everyone there gets what you're going through and what you're fighting for and who you are and why you're there, and thinks that you're awesome and thinks that you're doing the right thing for you, and that nobody there thinks you're a monster or any of those horrible, awful things that we get told the rest of the time. It's nice being around other people who don't think of you as some sort of freak and feeling safe, and I can't even describe it. It's amazing. But it was quite warm. They had us set up to march for like 2.5 hours in the heat and the sun, and wow, that was a little intense. There were people around me having panic attacks, another person passed out, there was all kinds of mayhem. It was a little crowded, it was kind of crazy, but in the end we all made it through the march and we all had a fantastic time, I think, and at least I did. There was this one person there who was giving out free mom hugs, and I normally don't go for those. For some reason, the energy was right. I decided to go for it, and I ran back to her and, consented for the hug, and she hugged me, and I expected it to be like, oh, okay, hug, now be gone. But she held on for a solid 10 seconds, which doesn't sound long, but it's long. And I said in her ear, I said, thank you. And I ran back up to my group, and they were like, what happened to you? I was like, oh, I went to get a mom hug. I don't get those. But it was really touching. There were definitely some people in the crowd that I felt were looking up to us as some sort of inspiration, which was really cool. There were people who really didn't understand but thought that we were doing the right thing for us, and that's cool. But a lot of people were just really excited and celebrating our existence and our being there and our finding ourselves and doing what it takes to fight to be ourselves. And it's just, wow. It's been 3 days and I'm still coming down from this high. It was just an unbelievable experience. I need to be more clear about this. I walked around in a shirt that said transgender on it and felt safe. I felt accepted. People were happy that I was who I am. And I don't get that from strangers normally. It's so remarkable. And we got to, the march takes us past the Stonewall Inn, which is where the riots happened that really started Pride as a thing. And, trans women of color started Pride, and it's kind of cool feeling like part of this continuity. You feel like you're part of something bigger than your own experience, and you feel valued and accepted and supported, and it's just I'm at a loss for words, and that's rare for me, as you can probably tell. I could talk about this for hours, but in the interests of keeping this video interesting, I will not. So I'm going to bring it back to me now. This is a transition update video. I do these once a month to track my progress for myself and to sort of provide others with some sort of, I don't want to say guide, but my experiences. I want to share those with other people that are going through similar or who want to understand what I'm going through. So last month I was working on getting my passport, social security, and birth certificate done. I, to date, have gotten the social security card, which is done and perfect and everything's good with that. I actually have a bit of a story with the birth certificate, and I'm still waiting on the passport and have heard nothing with that. My credit cards are halfway done, so that's awesome. I don't have any in my hands yet with my correct name on there, but I did see that my account for one of them changed online, so that's good. My bank is done. I'm going to call my colleges and get that done so that when my next employer goes to look me up, they don't go, this person doesn't exist, and throw out the application. So that's going to be something. So this birth certificate. I ranted quite a bit in my last video about the absurdity of the requirements that New York State has for changing your birth certificate, gender marker in particular. So the problem is that they require the letter from your doctor to be notarized and to have language that is different from what the federal government has and actually includes more detail, which is kind of bizarre to me because New York City doesn't require this at all. You can just change your gender marker on your birth certificate if you were born there. And I don't understand how the same state has two different requirements that one of them is lower and one of them is way higher than what the federal government requires to change your gender marker on their stuff. And it's really kind of frustrating because like, it's really difficult to understand what exactly they're protecting against. Like, who is out here changing their gender marker for fraud or for fun? Like, nobody changes their gender marker unless they have to. And like, I've reached a point in my transition where I go out in public, I'm full-time, and I do not resemble a guy, and it gets confusing. And now that I've done my license and other things like that, everything has to match. Like, once you start this process, you kind of have to finish. You know, getting my Social Security done was really the last major step in this process, because now I can change my credit cards, I can change my paychecks, you know, just everything now that my Social Security is done is going to get so much easier because it's just everywhere. And weirdly, the one that was most difficult was PayPal. And like, I don't even understand that because like, they're a digital company. Like, as far as I know, I think they have a credit card now, I'm not even sure, but like, basically they're an electronic company. And as far as I'm concerned, sending them the paperwork should just do the task. Like, it should just be done. But so, okay, so they have a system in place to submit for a legal name change. And I did that, and they say it takes 3 to 5 days. So after day 10, when nothing had happened and I had heard nothing, I reached out to them for support by email. And of course I submitted the forms that they asked for the other way of doing it, and they were fine with that. They changed my name and everything went great with that. It was actually a pretty quick turnaround. But they mentioned that I needed to remove and re-add my bank account to my account so that it would have the name that matches what's at my bank. So I go to remove my bank account and it tells me there's pending transactions. And I'm like, no, there isn't. I use my PayPal for like 3 things and none of them are pending. So what are you talking about? So I reached out to them again and I said, hey, I'm having trouble doing this. What do I do? And they said, okay, you have to add a new form of payment to your account and change your preferences and your automatic payments to that other payment method, and then you can delete the bank account. So I did, and it still wouldn't let me delete it with the same error message. So I messaged them again, and they said, oh, you have to call. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I call them, and they say, okay, yeah, it says giving us an error message that you can't remove it because you have pending transactions. I'm like, okay, but I don't, and I've done what you've said, and I've changed everything over, and it should be able to be removed. And they're like, hold on. So they put me on hold for 2 minutes. So they get back on the phone, and they go, hello, Mia, thank you for holding, sir. We are now going to remove your bank account, and it's all set, and you're all taken care of, and you should be able to re-add it, no problem. It's the sir. Like, this happened 3 times in that call. And like, sometimes it would happen in the same sentence where they'd use my correct name. And I'm like, how are you calling me Mia and thinking that sir is the appropriate, like, word to use here? I don't understand that. Like, I think they just wanted to say screw you to me as much as they possibly could within, like, guidelines. So, like, using my correct name, because that's what's on the account, and then calling me sir. It's sort of the inverse of what my pharmacist did, where they were like using she and her as often as possible, but they did have to ask for my name on my insurance, which was my birth name. So it's exactly the inverse of that, and this happens, and I feel like this is a thing, and maybe this is my paranoid side, but I feel like every single time I have to do something transition related where I'm changing my name or something like that, they make you go there in person or call them on the phone. And I can't help but feel like a little bit on display with that. I feel like they want to just have a good look at this person and judge me and hear my voice and be like, oh, look, that's not really a woman. Like, come on, you know? And I just don't really feel comfortable with that because nothing I'm doing is that crazy. People change names all the time. It's like getting married. Like, for some reason, this process is treated totally differently. And I get that it's a first and middle name, and that's different than what normally gets changed when someone gets married, for example. But like, name changes happen. It's not that crazy. So anyway, PayPal then removes the account, and I said, okay, great, thanks for calling me sir for 10 minutes and insisting on using the name that was on the checking account that was linked to the account, because they're like, oh yes, I see that account is under this name. And I'm like, yep, thanks for that, cool. Like, this person was just really insensitive, and I don't know how much of that is training or how much of that is just them being allowed to be jerks. But yeah. So I go to re-add the bank account, and sure enough, it errors out again, and it just says, sorry, can't do that. And I'm like, what the, okay, fine. So I gotta get on the phone with them again, and I call them again, and they try to add it, and they can't add it. And it's like, yeah, I don't call unless there's a real issue. And they're like, okay, let me put you on hold. You know, this person was good. They called me Miss, they called me Mia the whole time. Everything was great. Until the very end of the call, where they said, you know, have a nice day, sir. And I was like, but I think that was just autopilot. I don't know if they were like properly misgendering me or doing it intentionally like the last person I suspect was. But yeah, so my checking account is added, and I reached a point with that where I was like, you know what? These people can call me whatever they want. Just fix it. I can't anymore with this. Like, that name is dead, and this is my legal name, and using any other name but that is fraud. So, sorry, you're gonna have to get with it. And again, having the federal government and my social security done really helps with that, because I can be like, this is my name and the government agrees, and you're going to have to agree with that. I don't care about your moral position or your discomfort, but this is my name and you are going to use it. So then we come to the story of my birth certificate. And okay, so all that crazy paperwork, all the notarization, like 2 different notarized things, forms, court orders, letters from my doctor, all of that. I submitted everything and it was out the door. So a couple of weeks later, I get a letter in the mail from the New York State Department of Health, the Division of, you know, Vital Records or whatever, and I'm looking at it and I go, this is too soon, something's wrong. And I open it up, and sure enough, it's a letter addressed to Mia, which was nice, and it's a rejection letter. And I'm going, what could I possibly have messed up? And the thing that was filled out didn't make any sense to me, because basically they have a checklist for like which thing was wrong, and there's like 6 things on it, and the last one was checked and was other, and it was like, you know, see section C of the requirements or whatever. And I look at the requirements, I'm like, yeah, I did all of this. What are you talking about? So of course I get this at night, and there's a number to call on there to, like, if you have any questions, call this person. And I was like, okay, so I'll do that in the morning. In the meantime, I will have a good cry about this, because honestly, it is so frustrating, especially like the day after getting back from World Pride, where millions of people are cheering for me, and New York is like opening up their city to like throw a party for us basically, and to help us protest for our rights and everything, and then have the same state be like, screw you, we're not doing this. And like, I couldn't even figure out what the problem was, and I showed it to a couple of other people and the letter that I sent, and I'm like, this is correct, right? And everybody was looking at it going, yeah, this is correct. What is their problem? You know, I've been fighting to legally change my name and gender marker since March. You know, it's been a really long road, and I know that my timeline for this is a little skewed because I've really been doing a lot very quickly, and, you know, trying to be organized about it and everything and get it all done as quickly as possible, but like, wow. You know, like, I've been fighting for 4 months to get this done, and it's been unbelievably bumpy of a road. Like, every time I thought, oh, well, once I'm done with this, everything will just fall into place. No, you just have to keep going, and it's exhausting, and it's frustrating, because it feels like being told you're not valid. It feels like being told you don't exist and you don't matter, and we don't actually want to do this for you, but we will if we have to, and you have to prove to us that we have to. And it hurts because, like, it is who I am as a person. My name is Mia. That is it. That is the end of this discussion. There is no other name that applies to me. Using that other name that you associate with a male is inappropriate, because I am not a male and that is not my name. So yeah, it just gets very tiring, and to be denied something when you know you did everything right, and like, just that slap of rejection it really hurts, you know, and I've been very fortunate to not really have rejection up to this point. It's been like logistical problems like I had with PayPal, where their system just really is not equipped to handle me. It's been stuff like, well, until you get your social security done, we can't do this, and, you know, sequencing and figuring out what things I have to do first and everything. But like, yeah, so it's been a lot of things like that. Or places that say, oh, we updated your name, and then you get an invoice that's in your old name, and you're like, that's not updated, you need to fix it everywhere, please stop using that name, it is not me, you know? But to have your home state outright reject your gender marker change while using the correct name to address you is really bizarre to me. It was such a weird feeling, because I'm like, okay, so you accept that I am Mia, but not that I'm a woman. I don't know what to feel about that. Mostly I just felt like crying because it was just like going to be more work and I was going to have to delay getting this done. And, you know, after everything I've fought through, I really don't want to have to need the energy to do this. Like, I want to be done. I want to be whole, you know? So, this morning, actually, I called them and I asked them, hey, what requirements exactly am I missing from this letter so that I can get it right when I see my doctor in a few weeks? And they put me on hold for a couple of seconds, and they come back on and they say, oh, I'm sorry, Mia. For some reason, I didn't see that you even sent a letter with this, and I'm looking at it now, and it meets all the requirements, and you'll have your new birth certificate in your hands in 2 weeks, which is way ahead of their normal schedule. They usually say that it takes 3 months to process your birth certificate change, which I think is because they know that they messed up, and I kind of think they're giving me the rush treatment, which is good. So that's really exciting. Frankly, until I have it in my hands and everything is correct on it, I don't really care all that much because it's not real yet, you know? And that's the way I felt with Social Security. It's like, well, until I see the card with my number and my name on it, I don't trust this. And I felt the same way about my license. You know, even though I walked out of there with an interim license, until I have it in my hands, it's not really real. And that also goes for my passport, which I have heard nothing, so I have no idea what the status of that is. And that's one of those ones that I feel like I'm a little worried could actually be denied because it's more or less directly controlled by the Trump administration, and they're not so cool with trans people. I don't know if you've heard, but yeah, so I'm a little concerned about that one. But as far as I'm concerned, by the time my birth certificate and my Social Security have all this, they're gonna have to get on board, and so it's going to get done. It's just a matter of time and effort, and I'm really hoping that I'm done with the time and effort for this because I need to move on to other things in my transition. But yeah, and when I have all of these documents in my hand, and after I'm done calling my colleges, and after I'm done with all my credit cards and have those all in my hand, my legal transition will be complete. I will be myself, and that's awesome. Like, my goal was to have it done by the end of this year, and I've pretty well done that. Like, it's July, and I'm holding more than half of the documents in my hand, and I've got the other ones basically on the way, and this is awesome. Like, I'm Mia, and the world knows, and I am so happy. I am so much happier. And like, I get that part of that is relief because I've been fighting so hard and constantly thinking about this and stressing about it and working on it and being stuck at times with it, and you know, just the release of being at the end of that process will be something in itself. But like, also there's this whole aspect of like feeling like my real self and feeling like other people accept that, and that I won't have awkward moments when like people pull me over and they're like, your license says you're a guy, why are you in a dress and why do you have boobs? You know, like, that's a thing. Of course, the exception to that being the TSA, which tends to give trans women in particular a hard time because they go through the scanners and get told, oh, there's an unexpected object in the groin area. And I'm like, well, trust me, no one expected it less than me. Yeah, I'm really not looking forward to that encounter, but I can't fix the TSA, so we'll just have to deal with that one, I guess. And the bottom line is that I am a woman, my name is Mia, and now pretty much everyone is on board with that. And it makes me think a lot about my family, which I rarely talk about in this context because I don't really want to go there, but like, I said this to my coworker in particular because they used the wrong pronoun on me by accident. And I said to them, the government's on board with this, you might want to catch up. And I feel like that's sort of the correct way to handle my family, because I have no idea at all if I'm out to them. I didn't come out to them, but I assume that through mutual friends or something, they must know by now. I don't think they'd be particularly accepting, so I kind of just don't care. I'm like, the government accepts me as female, everyone who matters in my life accepts me as female and uses my correct name and pronouns, and as far as I'm concerned, my family can get on board or get out of the way. And like, obviously I want that mom hug. Obviously I want that acceptance. I want their support. I want them to understand me as a person and see that and love me for who I am, but I don't think that's realistic for me to expect from them. So I get free mom hugs at Pride, and I have my family of choice who is supportive, and I just make do with what I've got. That's what I can do. So now that my legal transition is winding down and nearly complete, it's time to continue focusing on my hair removal for my face. I have my next laser session in a couple of weeks, and that'll be number 4 of the 6 that I've paid for. And any hair that survives the 6 laser sessions is gonna get electrolysis, because I just don't see much point in continuing a process that clearly does not work for those hairs. So I'm going to go for it and get it done, and that'll be that, and I'll have some peace of mind. I won't have to shave every single morning. I won't have to think about putting on makeup all the time to cover up my facial hair so I can present how I want to be perceived. But of course, the last step in my transition is bottom surgery, which I am beginning to look into. I've started doing some of the preliminary research. I've been talking about it with my gender therapist. I haven't reached out to a doctor yet, or a surgeon, or any of that, so that's the next step. There's also electrolysis that needs to be done on that area, and I'm going to think about that when I go to see if I need to do an electrologist for my face. I'm going to try to track one down that does this specifically, because I need to feel comfortable and safe with them in that area of my body. And I'm not gonna lie, I am absolutely terrified, and I hadn't really decided whether or not I was going to choose to get bottom surgery before, but the more that I think about it, the more that I explore myself, the more that I progress in my transition, the more this particular problem stands out to me as a problem. And it's sort of like, I was hoping that as the rest of my body and my life and my social circles and my job and my legal stuff came together and I felt more like myself, that I would just become more okay with the situation. And that is not what has happened. If anything, it's been pretty much the opposite. It's almost like because everything else is coming together, this particular problem is standing out more as a problem. And I have had this particular problem for 29 years. I've never really been happy with that situation, and maybe it was a little unrealistic for me to expect that that would ever change, but the bottom line is I have reached the conclusion that I need to have surgery in order to feel like my real self and feel comfortable with myself and progress with my life. And I am terrified. I am scared. This is a very scary procedure. The prep work is not fun. The recovery is not going to be fun. It's basically going to require me to not be at work for like a month. It's scary, you know, even though my insurance covers it, that it doesn't solve the problem of me not having income for a month or any of the rest of that kind of stuff. It's scary. It's really, really scary. But you know, I don't think I would trust myself to be taking it seriously if I didn't think that this was scary, because it is. And you know, there's risks, you know, there's risks with any surgery or any medical procedure. And one of the last holdouts I had with it was that I didn't feel like I would die if I didn't do this. I didn't feel like my life was pointless without this. It's just sort of like I don't think that I'll ever feel fully happy with this problem still in my life. It sucks. Like, it really sucks. I really don't want to have to need this surgery. I don't want to have to go through this. It's going to be awful. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be terrifying. But, like, I was scared before starting hormones too. Like, I didn't know if it would be right for me even, and I can't know the outcome of this, but like, it's really hard because like I feel like everything works today and I'm going to roll the dice on that, and that's not really a great idea, but I don't see any other possibility for me to be truly happy with myself and my situation without doing this, and having to accept that and having to get over that and just accept that this is what I have to do in order to feel happy is kind of a hurdle. You know, it's what I most need right now is to look someone in the eye in person who has been through this and have them tell me that it is going to be okay and that it has been worth it for them. And I just kind of need that strength to carry me through everything that's to come with this, because like I just need someone to understand me and understand everything that I'm about to go through and tell me that it's survivable and going to lead to me feeling happier with myself. And I already expect that because I wouldn't be choosing to do this otherwise, but like, it's different hearing it from someone who really gets it, you know? So that's what I'm needing most right now. I have to do some research. I have to get in contact with a surgeon or multiple surgeons probably, see what's out there and what my options are and go from there. Yeah, I am terrified. But the good and simultaneously bad news with this is that it's probably going to take the better part of a year or two to actually get to the point of having this surgery performed, because that's how long the wait lists are for, you know, good surgeons and stuff. So I'll have some time to adjust to this, so that's good. You know, it's what it is. Pretty much by definition, everything is what it is. Thank you, Mia. That is the lesson of the day in tautologies. So yeah, my transition is progressing. My legal transition is just about wrapped up. I'm looking into getting bottom surgery lined up and everything that it'll take to get that done and best possible outcome. So we'll see. I just kind of getting by with that one. But the time for celebration is approaching, because when I have all these documents in my hand, I am for sure going to allow myself to celebrate that, because it is the end of my legal transition, which is really, really exciting. It's been a very long road and I've worked really hard for this, and I'm really proud of myself, and so are a few million other people. And you know, every time I walk through a mall and get a weird look from somebody, I'm gonna remember that that's one person who would stand out because they weren't cheering for me in a crowd of millions. You know, it really matters to feel like you're accepted by a large part of people, because so often the news about trans people is just horrible, and you know, we're getting murdered a lot. Like, it's been a bad year, like every year before has been, and you know, we've got the president actively taking away our rights. We've got crazy things like that happening, but it's important for us to remember that a lot of people support us and who we are and what we're doing and everything. And I just can't get over how amazing of an experience going to Pride and marching especially was, and just feeling safe and accepted and loved and valued for who we are and what we do and all that we go through. And it helps. It helps knowing that most people actually do support trans rights. They think we have them. They don't even really understand the struggles that we are dealing with. They don't know what the problems are. And like, most people are apathetic actually. They actually are just like, okay, well, they're people, they can do whatever they want. That's cool, good for them. but like, it's very different having acceptance and having support. And what I think we need to work on as a society is supporting trans people rather than simply accepting them. We need to fight for them so that they're not fighting for themselves all the time. We need to fix things like the process for changing the gender marker on your birth certificate so that I can pee in the Carolinas in peace. You know, we need to fix the Carolinas and their bathroom laws. We need to deal with that sort of stuff. And we have a long way to go because trans people are people and they deserve human rights, and they don't have them, and we're working on it, but we're not there yet. And yeah, you know, I said at the beginning of my legal transition that I was going to do whatever it took and fix the system later, and now I'm, especially after being near the Queer Liberation March, going past Stonewall, knowing the history of Pride and knowing why we march, you know, like, I think it's about time for me to start helping other people. And I've been helping other people in my support group in particular along the way, but like, it's time for me not to be so focused on taking care of myself, and it's time to start thinking about helping other people. So to that end, I have put the templates for the letters for your gender marker for New York State, Social Security, and your passport, all in links in the description in a Google Doc. And if you want to copy those and use them for yourself, they are public and you can do whatever you want with them. And I really encourage you, if you are working on transitioning and changing your name and all of that, to reach out for help from people around you. I will help you if I can. And, you know, like, basically there's two kinds of people. There is the kind of person who says, well, I had to suffer, so should you. And there's the type of person who says, I had to suffer, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that no one else ever has to go through that. And I will gladly choose the latter every single time, because nobody should have to go through some of the crap that I did. And you know what? I'm going to do my part. It's time for me to start caring about other people with this. And now that I've got myself more or less together, it's time to start putting energy into that. And yeah, that's what I walked out of Pride with. So I think it worked. So, thank you for stopping by and for continuing to stay on through this wild, crazy journey of my transition. I'll be back again next week with another video that I hope you will find interesting. Until then, stay curious and prideful.